Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a privilege for me to be part of this international forum. I congratulate and compliment the World Association and wider Association of Vedic Studies and S-Vyasa for this outstanding webinar. The topic is so relevant today. The world is in the highest form of modernization. The technologies world over. And in this context, how does ancient philosophy, Ayurvedic sciences fall relevant? The topic so relevant, impact of Vedic wisdom on the world today. I shall speak on job satisfaction, which is an essential part of management in the world today, and correlate this with Arthaśāstra. How does job satisfaction and Arthaśāstra correlate with each other? And I shall be covering it into three parts. Talk of the job satisfaction as it exists today. I shall talk of Arthaśāstra and how the job satisfaction at that point of time was being organized or as it existed. And thereafter, I shall attempt to give you a comparative view of the job satisfaction and what are the lessons for us from Arthaśāstra and the way Chanakya organized the entire Magad, which that time extended from Afghanistan to Myanmar and including Sri Lanka. It is as big as the entire South Asia today. It would have been possible only because of happiness that existed amongst the people. And today's management world is exactly looking for satisfaction of the people. And the pandemic that we are going through actually adds on to the happiness and life today. So let's see what it holds for us. The management perspective of the job satisfaction today. Job satisfaction actually came about during and post-industrialization era. When the industrial revolution started, everyone wanted to have the maximum output. The profit-oriented growth was the key word. Happiness was never in the mind. It was beginning of the 20th century when for the first time Frederick Taylor said in 1911 as to the best output has to have a certain way. And that particular method, if we follow, we shall get the best output. But still, the happiness part of the employee was not part of it. It was possibly Elton Mayo who came in to say that yes, happiness should be co-opted in it. And thereon, part of the satisfaction amongst the employees came about. And satisfaction to an extent related to the job only. Personal satisfaction, happiness of individual came about from possibly 1930s onwards, when the humanistic behavioral scientists started looking into the subject and they said, they felt that the happiness of the man or the woman on the job is as important as the output in the job. And if I look back in that era, actually there have been a number of authors, behavioral scientists who worked and spoke about job satisfaction. Locke, for the first time in 1976, had defined that it is that emotional response and a pleasure-oriented emotional response which leads to happiness or job satisfaction. And over a period of almost a century, the modern behavioral scientists have still not been able to reach a common agreement on a certain definition of job satisfaction. Hopok said that any combination of psychological, physiological, environmental circumstances that an individual is happy with in his job or her job is possibly the job satisfaction. Vroom said the role of employee in the workplace, and actually he counted on to as to how happy he is based on certain formula and the models. And when they started looking into it, a couple of things that came about, that an individual has feelings. So that feeling is very important, which Spector spoke about. How do you feel about your job? How do you feel about the co-workers with you? How are the environmental situations? They all affect an individual, and hence would affect the happiness. And happiness in turn will affect the output in the job. So the overall meaning and the concept still remain that the employee should be happy for a better output, better profit. Very few scientists said that if you are happy, the output doesn't matter. They said, yes, if you are happy, sooner or later, happiness would come about. Similarly, Kaliski said about recognition, income, promotion, achievements, so fulfillment, again relates to feelings, emotions. They were more important. And as we went by, the definitions kept changing, issues kept coming up, and job satisfaction as such primarily got related to the work environment. Later in the second half of 20th century and onwards, the work-life balance also came about. That I should be happy at my job, I should be happy at my residence, my personal family life should be equally satisfied. And more so, if I'm happy with my family, with my children, with my friends and relatives, I'm likely to be more happy in my job. If I've had a rollicking from my wife early in the morning, who the hell would think I'll perform better in the job tomorrow morning? Oh, that's very difficult. Similarly, if my boss has given me a rollicking, would I be happy coming home and smiling? That smile would fade away with the job, or vice versa. So what we need to see and understand is that job satisfaction today primarily relates to a work and an individual, how I correlate with my work. Herzberg said so. Herzberg said that your physical, that is hygiene conditions, and motivating factors, if these two are in a combined manner, are good, and if I am getting my recognition, if I am getting my intrinsic values of my work or family, I shall be happy. So he compared the two and came out with the solution that there are extrinsic values, that means physical conditions. I have an AC, I'm comfortable, I have a good pay, my job is very well secured, I have very good social contact, excellent network. So these are all physical factors that can be counted upon. And there was a time when they said, if you keep getting them more and more, you are likely to be happier. But there is a time beyond which, how much will you earn? How much job security do you want? How long do you want? This has to be an end to it. If I give you a very good pay and still keep kicking you, would you be happy at your job? Would you be satisfied with your job? Possibly not. Therefore, the intrinsic values or the motivators are more important when we talk of happiness at the job. Do I like my job? Either I do a job which I love to do, or whatever job I do, I start loving the job. So it becomes interesting for me. Is it challenging? Am I learning something new every day? Am I able to contribute to the organization I'm working in? Am I able to contribute to the society? Am I being recognized for my job? You give a chocolate to a child, he or she is happy. But if you pat the child and say, you're wonderful, that happiness continues for a longer period. And that's exactly what intrinsic values are in today's context when we talk of job satisfaction. And job satisfaction, if you look around, it includes an individual what he or she thinks, what are his values in life, what is the environment that he is working in, whether it is family environment or the work environment, they all impact his happiness at large. And how is the work? His co-workers, his superiors, subordinates. So combined together, you see that the personality that I am, the values that I hold, the society that I come from, and the work where I am actually working, all of them have an impact and influence on my happiness, my satisfaction with my job, or so-called job satisfaction. So this is the modern view of doing a job. And as scientists have said, behavioral scientists say that I have three components: affective, cognitive, and behavioral component in myself. And if I am to give an excellent output, my attitude has to be positive. An affective component relates to my feelings. If my feelings are positive, I'm likely to have a positive attitude. My cognitive component, whatever I'm thinking, if the thought process is positive, I am creative, I am liking my job, I'm likely to have positive attitude. And therefore, my behavioral aspect would be extremely good. And the third part is the behavioral component itself. When I start acting, that action of mine based on my affective and cognitive components, if they are positive, my attitude towards the work is likely to be very positive. This is how I need to behave at my job in an organization. And that positive attitude will lead me to an excellent action, or the positive aspect in the behavioral part of it. Having seen what is in the modern context in terms of job satisfaction, I take you to Arthaśāstra, the perspective from Arthaśāstra point of view. You're all aware, Arthaśāstra is almost 2,400 years old. Chanakya was the pioneer, the social scientist, the economist, the political scientist, the strategist that he was, and he created that largest empire, Magad. And if you all remember Nanda dynasty, who was very exploitative, extraordinarily negative authoritarian or autocrats, Chanakya was not very happy with them, and he wanted to improve the situation. And when they did not agree, he decided to raise his own king and change the entire society and the kingdom, which he did. Ultimately, he ousted Nanda dynasty. He created the largest known empire in India. The world of technology that exists today, the science and the management perspectives that exist today were not there. But actually, if you look back into the science and the ages, all that modern management and science is looking at is part of what Arthaśāstra was. Arthaśāstra or Chanakya is sometimes compared with Machiavelli, who wrote The Prince. Prince was only a political science part of it, whereas Arthaśāstra combined together everything. It was a statecraft. It was based on a finer philosophy of welfare state, a benevolent autocracy. And Arthaśāstra or Chanakya in Arthaśāstra gave a very, very holistic perspective of happiness with life, as against job satisfaction, which looks at an individual and attempts to make him happy by a number of means. Chanakya said, it's a top-down approach. If king is good, the praja will be good. If king is making efforts, his population or masses will be extremely happy. And he created Arthaśāstra in two major objectives. He says, acquire territory and administer the territory. And hence, when Magad was acquired, he ensured that the administration of the entire kingdom of Magad is extremely professional, outstanding. Now, in administration of the entire kingdom comes an individual, a society. you and me together. And how does he make all of them very happy? This entire creation of the state of Magad by him, and creation of a very happy state wherein the GDP those times was possibly the highest. And he created by large number of measures he adopted in the strategy, in the economy part of it, in administration part of it, in rewards and punishments. And when he created a holistic machine called state, which is a welfare-based state, everyone is bound to be happy. Of course, 100% cannot be happy. There would be some unhappy people, all right. But the concept that he developed was based on leadership. And he created almost 6,000 sutras on leadership. It says, create the leader who is an outstanding person, outstanding leader. He must have wonderful governance lessons. That is how he explains how a prince has to be raised. How should his education be? How should he grow to be a good ruler? He gave out rules for a king. How should a king behave? In fact, he went into so much of detail that from morning till evening, the 24 hours of the day, he gave out as to what should the king be doing at what time. And when I went through, I realized that almost 3 hours early in the morning from 1:30 to about 4:30, he had given to the king to do self-introspection, study, work, think about the state as to how to grow the state, how to make economy better, how to make people happy. And he had special time to meet people. He had special time for specially able people, for widows, for poor. And that is how he went right down up to each individual who had nothing in life. And he attempted to make each one of them happy. That is how a king should behave. That is how Chanakya trained Chandragupta Maurya. And that is how possibly the kingdom became an outstanding leader. The king or the leader, he said, is not by virtue of physical actions or physical strength. He said the king has to be trained with his strong mind. The mind has to be actually made in such a manner or worked upon in such a manner that feel, think, and action, what job satisfaction talks today, is ingrained into the king, is ingrained into his ministers, amatyas, and down right up to each individual in the society. He worked on 3 essential aspects of happiness, beneficial or benefits, and welfare. And he differentiated between all 3 of them, really calling it sukh. Am I happy? How can I be happy? And hit, what is good for me, what is not good for me. What king thinks is beneficial to him may not actually be beneficial to him. But what is beneficial to the population is definitely beneficial to the king. And the third part, welfare. This is a welfare of each individual is so important. Kalyan, Mangalam Bhavat is what he focused upon. And with these 3 holistic aspects, he attempted to make everyone a very happy and satisfied person in Magad. And if an individual is happy and satisfied, whatever he or she does on his job or her job, they will put in their best to get the best output. He said, if I have to select between peace and war, I will select peace. If I have to select between neutrality and war, I shall select neutrality. See the subtle aspect. The war may give you dominance. The war may lead you to victory, but he would prefer peace as against war. Wherever it is inevitable and the enemy has to be taught a lesson, yes, by all means, he went in for a large number of wars as well. But given a choice, he would opt for peace or neutrality. And he very well said, Praja sukhe sukham ragyah prajanam tu hite hitam. Natma priyam hitam ragyah prajanam tu priyam hitam. प्रजा के सुख में ही राजा का सुख निहित है. प्रजा के हित में ही उसे अपना हित दिखना चाहिए. जो स्वयं को प्रिय लगे उसमें राजा का हित नहीं है. उसका हित तो प्रजा को जो कुछ भी प्रिय लगे उसी में है. See the essence that praja should be happy. People, masses is the focus for Chanakya, for the king, and they should work towards the population. What is happening today? Today there is an organization, large number of private government organizations exist. The sutras are also existing. But what is happening? The modernization, the personal gains, the today's concept of profit making, irrespective of what happens to an individual, doesn't actually hold good. But as a team, as masses, as a kingdom, if you are all very good, happy, socially excellent, automatically the output or the outcome will be outstanding. That's the major difference I visualize, I see between the satisfaction achieved through Arthaśāstra and the job satisfaction, which primarily focuses on the job. And happiness or satisfaction of an individual is the secondary part of it. And now people have realized that, yes, individual is possibly the most important person, and focus is being laid on it. Couple of aphorisms of Kautilya or Chanakya, his sutras, which are so relevant towards happiness. He says, Sukhasya moolam dharma. Sukh ka sara aadhar hi dharma hai. Whatever is ethical, whatever is righteousness is correct. That is dharma. Now, if that dharma is in favor or against me or any other individual, be it so. सुख तो उसी सच में है, धर्म में ही है. Then he say, dharmasya moolam artha. Dharma or righteousness is based on economy. Arth, mullah rules, so money matters. And so the prime aspect of happiness is duty, dharma. The second one is artha, economy, money, property, and so on. And arthasya moolam rajam. You will have an excellent economy if the governance in the state is outstanding. Governance means all aspects of governance, be it external security, internal security and safety of people, economy, administration, facilities to the masses. All that is part of governance. What governance we see today, or what the farm bill that has come, we see so much of agitation from a limited number of states. You know, this is slightly contradictory as I see as against what Kautilya had given. Governance is so very important. Then he says, Rajasya moolam indriya jaya. Right governance is victorious or inner restraint. For better governance, the control of sensory organs is so important. Each individual, each functionary in the government, each member in the organization, each employee in the system, he or she must have an excellent control of own senses. And if you have right control, the inner restraint, if you work on inward growth, as it is, Chanakya's philosophy is called inside out. So if you control your inside, I think your actions, your behavior will be more balanced. You'll be more happy in your actions. But how do you control your senses? He says, Indriya jayasya moolam vinaya. Victorious inner restraint is through humility, vinay. If you remain humane, humility is part of you, and he says you will be able to control your senses. And rightly so, in present context, in the modern world, we all say control your anger, control your lust, control your desires, do meditation, do yogasana. What is all that? It is all coming from our ancient philosophy. And Arthaśāstra has got major part of this in conveying to you and me as control of our senses towards being more humane, care for each other, love and affection for each other. And if you are able to care for each other, what Herzberg said, motivators or intrinsic values. That means you recognize, you smile more often, you appreciate more often, you be creative in your life. And when you do all those things, you are actually controlling your senses and becoming better person individually. And when you become a better person, you are likely to perform better in whatever job you do. And then he says, how do you make yourself more humane? How does humility come into you? He says, Vinayasya moolam vriddhopaseva. You become more humane. The humility comes to you when you serve the old and aged, when you look after widows, when you look after specially able people, you look after the downtrodden. When you start looking towards people who actually do not have anything, you become more humane. The human touch comes into you. In today's context, if you compare the two and say, visit orphanage more often, visit old age homes, look after your and my old parents, old relations, look after the downtrodden. And that is how his sutras, out of 10 sutras, I've listed out 6 of them. You see that the essence of happiness that comes from Chanakya or Arthaśāstra is far too deeper than what is given in today's job context. Let me now compare both of them. In a way, there's hardly any comparison that we can see. Arthaśāstra is an ocean of knowledge, wisdom. Job satisfaction is part of what we are learning today. There is no set definition that has come about on job satisfaction, whereas Chanakya has given a very, very holistic definition. And he said, if the king can conquer himself first, his inside, his own mind, he can conquer the world. And therefore it is all emotional, very deep-rooted, holistic. The job satisfaction, what Locke had said, is also related to that. He says pleasurable emotions. Those emotions which give me happiness. Care for others, care for your family members, care for your co-workers leads to happiness, happiness at job. In context of Arthaśāstra, it goes much beyond the job satisfaction. It goes much beyond even happiness. He talks of sukha, hit, kalyan, mangal for everyone. For everyone. And when that happens, the entire society is rejuvenated, vibrant, dynamic, and more creative. And when such a vibrant and creative organization is working, the happiness is bound to be there. And all jobs, irrespective of what we do, would be very, very positively oriented. Values, attitudes, and behavior today have been stressed upon greatly in the job satisfaction aspect. A lot of authors have spoken about this. And Chanakya focuses on control of inner senses, controlling your own mind. And that again is the basic concept of Chanakya in his Arthaśāstra. In addition to the job, today we are also talking about work-life balance. That I should maintain my work and life in a very balanced manner. I should be, if I'm devoting 8 hours a day in the office, balance of the time I should be with family. It is even happening that from 6 days, 7 days to 6 days to 5 days a week, the work has already commenced all over. Some of the European countries are even going towards 4 days a week. Possibly, it is one way of saying work-life balance. And when you balance it in a manner, you're more creative. You have time to think rather than only work, work, and work. You know, all work makes Jack a dull boy. So, in addition to the uh, work, he needs to play also. Job satisfaction looks at an individual in an organization and then starts working towards his happiness. Arthaśāstra and Chanakya worked on happiness of the society, look at each individual, welfare-based society, and everyone would be happy. Profit making is essence of job satisfaction. Individual happiness comes later. Whereas Chanakya said these 6 principles of lust, anger, greed, conceit, arrogance, foolhardiness, if these are overcome, the happiness is already there. So in a sense, when I compare the two, I find that both are oriented towards happiness of individual in their own ways. While Arthaśāstra talks of entire state as a welfare state and look after each individual in this state, the job satisfaction looks at an individual and attempts to make him or her happy, satisfied at home and at job. So both of them are working towards the same factor, that is a human being, and happiness of a human being wherever he or she is. Arthaśāstra is much deeper, inside out philosophy. It gives out quite a bit towards his or her happiness and in the entire environment. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to summarize and say Chanakya, which came almost 400 years, 321 BC, when Magadha Empire was at climax, he gave a theory, he gave a concept in terms of these 15 chapters of Arthaśāstra, which have given the world of today, I think, everything that the management would like to have. Job satisfaction is that one part which has been dealt with in great detail by Chanakya in all his chapters across. Though there is no separate chapter on happiness or job satisfaction in Arthaśāstra, but all aspects of chapter, especially chapter 4, talks of the happiness to a great deal. Chapter 1 talks of how to make king and prince the best persons to be a very good ruler. And essentially both look towards happiness of an individual. I observe, I find, I analyze that Chanakya is far too deeper, and today's world has got a lot to learn from Chanakya, Arthaśāstra, and Arthaśāstra itself is based on the Vedic sciences that we have. So essentially our Vedas, Arthaśāstra got so much which we all need to be proud of. We need to work upon more of it. And with that, I think the world is going to be much more happier. Thank you so much for your patience. I really enjoyed talking. I'm sure you already enjoyed listening. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.